I am Representative Mike Maron from the 104th District, which includes parts of Vermilion and Champaign counties. My office and the office of my colleagues have been consistently dealing with the failures at IDES for almost 10 months now. The long line of desperate constituents calling our office has grown week by week and has not slackened since the beginning. In over 10 months of dealing with the department, they are as non-responsive as they have ever been when the pandemic began. Initially, our office faced the issue of desperate people out of work after the governor's executive order that could not register for basic benefits that were due to them. People called our office in tears, not knowing where they were going to get the money to pay bills or put food on the table for their families. They told horror stories about calling the IDES number over 70 times without talking to a live person. The department's legislative liaison, whose main job is to keep in touch with members of the General Assembly, would not return calls or emails. By midsummer, after the massive data breach the department experienced, the main topic of our IDES calls switched from basic benefits to people having fraudulent claims filed in their names. These calls have continued unabated since then, and the volume has recently began to increase at our office. Right in the middle of the holiday season, our office started getting calls from small business owners after they received letters telling them that they had to repay significant amounts of PUA assistance they received from the federal government through IDES. The dollar figures in these letters were staggering, considering these individuals had their businesses devastated by the governor's executive order, and none of these people expected or planned for this. Most repayment demands came with a deadline of only a few short weeks, with the added threat of penalties and interest for failure to pay. Back in March, I publicly stated that we needed to cut the governor some slack, since we were in unprecedented times and IDES needed time to adjust to a historically high volume of people needing to access the system. After about a month of trying desperately for my constituents to help my constituents access benefits, I decided it was time to speak out. Since that time, the governor has ignored the problem, he's made a litany of excuses, and he's blamed the federal government for the problems. Our caucus has offered help. We've asked to be involved in a positive way. We have requested better communication with the department. And when all else failed, we criticized and we called out the failures that we saw. Last month, after my constituents started receiving the PUA repayment letters, I tried futilely for several days to get in touch with someone at the department for an explanation of what was going on. I finally felt like I had to stage a protest and get some recognition and try to draw some attention to this. I had to stand outside the IDES building in Springfield for 2 straight days doing Facebook Live videos talking about the problem before the director would call me back. After going to those lengths and finally getting a Zoom meeting with the director, at a bare minimum, I hope to improve the line of communications with the department. Sadly, that has not happened. My staff and I offered possible solutions to assist the department in several areas. And I offered to help lobby our congressional delegation to help get waivers on federal regulations that might be inhibiting the department from getting their job done. The legislative liaison has been non-responsive. I cannot put in words how heartbreaking it is to hear the stories of desperation from my constituents because of the failures of this department. It is unacceptable how the governor has responded to this crisis. At this point, I have all but given up in the Pritzker administration taking ownership of this mess and taking some serious action to fix the problem. All I know is that I'm going to have to keep talking about this issue until someone decides that they want to help my constituents and help the thousands of people across the state of Illinois that are hurting. My colleagues and I have some suggestions, some proposals. For instance, the governor has claimed that we can't use employees from other state agencies to help with the backlog at IDES because of U.S. Department of Labor regulations. Our caucus made a request asking what specific regulation that was so that we could try to help get a waiver from that with our congressional delegation and with the U.S. Department of Labor. We got a response yesterday from the department stating that no such rule exists. The governor owes us an explanation. Is there a rule? What rule are you citing that's prohibiting this? If not, why can't we utilize employees from other agencies to get this mess cleaned up? Most importantly, me and my colleagues are offering help as legislators to work through this problem collectively. It is my hope that someone at the administration cares enough to listen to our ideas and to start a dialogue. The people in Illinois who are hurting badly deserve nothing less. I will now turn it over to my friend and colleague, Representative Jeff Kiger.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate it. Good morning. I'm State Representative Jeff Kiger from the 70th District. That includes parts of DeKalb, Kane, and Boone County. We're asking today that the Pritzker administration work with thousands of Illinois residents who were recently notified that they're required to pay the state back from an overpayment of the pandemic unemployment assistance benefits that they received from the COVID-19 pandemic via the federal program. They've received these letters from the Illinois Department of Employment Security. And when I'm talking about PUA, I want you to think about gig economy workers, independent contractors, people who traditionally haven't been eligible for unemployment benefits. And the reason for so many of these overpayments of the PUA benefits is due to a lack of clarity over whether the PUA applications were being approved based on the applicant's net or gross income. IDES, due to being swamped with unprecedented applications, and I want to say we've got amazing people at the Department of Unemployment Security. If you've interacted with them, they're phenomenal folks, and they are just overburdened. So these unprecedented applications, and often they calculated the wrong benefit. And many Illinoisans were approved based on their gross income, which resulted in overpayments. Even at the maximum payment of $580 a week, this federal program wouldn't exceed $31,000 a year, full year, while unemployed. Now, first, PUA is payable for folks that aren't employees of someone else, and they couldn't work due to COVID. Again, think gig economy, independent contractors, barbers and beauticians, folks who rent chairs for a living, think tutors, piano teachers. These folks aren't looking to get rich off a system. They're out there trying to pursue the American dream by having their own small business. They're trying to put food on the table, and COVID-19 hits. Again, the maximum benefit we're talking about is $580 a week that wouldn't otherwise be authorized because they aren't working for someone else. Under regular unemployment rules, the income of these self-employed workers, freelancers, independent contractors are not subject to the unemployment taxes that employers pay. So typically these individuals are not eligible for the benefits on the backside. Fortunately, the federal government saw a solution and introduced the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or PUA, and it was created to help people who lose this type of work as a direct result of the public health emergency. A precondition for approval is that someone is not eligible for any other unemployment programs. We have questions of the governor. In fairness, for the people of Illinois, the administration needs to answer these. First and foremost, how many PUA claims were filed? And of those claims, how many clawbacks of those awarded is he pursuing? And how many more is he still evaluating for potential clawbacks? While federal law required states to pay back the amount they paid those who were approved in excess of the amount they should have received, a provision contained in the recently passed COVID-19 emergency relief package approved by Congress and signed by the president on December 27th, grants the states the ability to waive this requirement with respect to PUA. We strongly believe that Illinois should do so without delay, and we hope that the governor agrees with us. Illinois residents who received a letter from IDES notifying them of the amount of overpayment they owe back to the state, as Representative Maron had indicated, is sometimes staggering, often thousands of dollars. So I want you to imagine being a hairdresser, out of work since March, getting a chance for unemployment insurance in July, and now in October, the state of Illinois comes out and says, hey, we need you to pay back a few $1,000s, even though you still aren't working to full capacity, and even though you probably haven't dug your way out of the hole that you were already in because you decided to pursue the American dream. Most displaced workers approved for PUA in 2020 are not able to pay anything back right now, as many gig economy workers and their families are still struggling to help those ends meet amid the pandemic. We're here to advocate for our constituents, the people of Illinois impacted by this snafu regarding the PUA benefits. We're going to be working in a bipartisan way for seeking cooperation between the governor and the legislature to waive the full amount of overpayments as outlined in the federal legislation recently passed. We believe this is an urgent priority, and it can and should be something addressed during this upcoming lame duck session. Finally, I asked in April for the governor to take ownership and send help to the people at IDES with the onslaught of unemployment claims that they were receiving. When we saw those claims in April, we immediately suggested across the board that people be sent to IDES to assist. And the word that we got at that time was, listen, it would take months to train these people. We can't get them on board quickly enough to deal with this. Well, had we hired those folks in April, where would we be now with the PUA challenges and the fraud challenges that IDES is currently encountering? Again, the fine people at IDES are just being swamped through the governor's lack of ownership of the problem, the lack of accountability, and that he keeps finding reasons to declare other problems. With all due deference to the governor, we are dealing with a pandemic, and I appreciate his ability to identify the problems that we're encountering. What is the frustration on the part of the people of Illinois is they don't hear solutions. They don't hear creative problem solving out of the leader of this state. The fine people of Illinois deserve an opportunity to know where our path is headed. And to this point, all the governor does is stand up, talk about the state of things, dodge questions about where we need to go, and not be accountable to taking the mantle of leadership, owning the leadership of the state of Illinois to get us recovered. And Illinois deserves nothing less than a strong leader to lead us at some of the most challenging times the state will ever know. You can always act, but your behavior is a function of your decisions, not your environment. So the fact that we find ourselves in this COVID pandemic are circumstances that have been handed to us. True leadership is going to be revealed with where we go from here. I'd like to hand it over now to my peer, Representative Murphy.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm State Representative Mike Murphy. I represent the 99th district that covers parts of Springfield and some of the surrounding communities. And thank you to my colleagues, Representative Maron and Representative Kiger, for the remarks they just gave. Sadly, this is not the first time I've been before the media talking about issues plaguing IDES. And like my colleagues, nor is the first time I've sought answers and have asked to work with the governor's administration, as well as my colleagues on the Democratic side of the aisle, to address these serious problems. I have called for public hearings on multiple occasions so we can get to the root of the problems and create tangible solutions. Last month, Representative Kiger and I sent another letter to Chairwoman of the State Government Administrations Committee, Representative Stephanie Kipowitz, asking her to hold the public hearing. The lame duck legislative session starting Friday seems like a perfect opportunity for this, but no hearing of the committee has been called. As my colleagues referred, Families are going without benefits, while others are being chased by IDES to repay benefits sent to them via the administration's mismanagement of the PUA system and fraudulent claims filed with their information. All of this against a backdrop of several 100,000 fraudulent claims that IDES is still failing to prevent via basic safeguards. I spoke with IDES director at the beginning of the December and was shocked to learn that little or no action was being taken to prevent fraudulent claims plaguing the system. I suggested two basic things to curb the problem. Set up an alert structure so multiple claims from one entity and out-of-state or out-of-country claims are flagged for review. Institute the standard employer verification protocol that currently exists for normal unemployment claims to prevent fraudulent claims by contacting their employer immediately. This would ensure that the claim is valid and also ensure that the employer actually exists. These are easy solutions that could curb fraud right now without any legislative action, but they are not happening. The administration cannot continue to blame this fraud on the federal government or just say it's happening all over the country. It is the administration's responsibility to ensure these dollars are protected for those who need it most. Once again, I'm calling for a public hearing and concrete answers from the administration to address these failures. Telling families who are trying to get through this crisis to monitor their credit reports for potential unemployment fraud is completely unacceptable. As Representative Kiger referred to in regards to headcount, early on in this crisis, we were told it would take months to get the headcount up to where it needs to be. The last report I've seen, our headcount has only increased approximately 30 to 32 people when they have authorizations to increase it up to 230. This is from the agencies whose part of their job and part of their responsibility and their charge is to find people jobs. We stand ready to work with the governor and our Democrat colleagues to deal with these issues. And I sincerely hope the governor will speak up before the lame duck session begins so we can find more solutions together.